Most people believe closure is necessary. They think healing requires explanations, that peace only comes after conversations, that understanding someone else's reasons will somehow free them. So they replay old moments, reread messages, reopen doors that should have stayed closed. They ask questions that can't be answered honestly. They seek clarity from people who are just as confused. But a Sigma doesn't do this. Not because he's cold, not because he's arrogant, not because he doesn't feel. He doesn't seek closure because he understands something most people don't. Closure is not something you receive. It's something you decide. And waiting for someone else to give it to you is the fastest way to stay emotionally dependent. This video is about why a Sigma never asks for closure, why he walks away without explanations, why he doesn't chase final conversations, and why in the long run, this makes him mentally unbreakable. This is not about suppressing emotion. It's about mastering it. Welcome to Silent Apex. People don't seek closure because they want truth. They seek it because they want relief. They want someone else to tell them that what happened wasn't their fault, that they were enough, that things could have been different. Closure is often disguised reassurance. When someone asks why, they're rarely asking for facts. They're asking for emotional permission to move on. But here's the problem. Most people don't even know why they did what they did. They explain in ways that protect their ego. They rewrite history to avoid guilt. They minimize your experience to preserve their self-image. So the answers you get are incomplete, distorted, or false. And instead of freeing you, they create more confusion. The Sigma understands this early. He sees that chasing closure is chasing control over something that no longer exists. It keeps you tied to the past. It keeps the other person psychologically relevant. It keeps the wound open. Closure seeking is attachment in disguise. The Sigma doesn't want relief. He wants independence. A Sigma doesn't romanticize endings. He doesn't need a final speech. He doesn't need emotional punctuation. He doesn't need to be understood. When something ends, he accepts that it ended because it no longer aligned. That's enough. This mindset doesn't come from detachment. It comes from self-trust. The Sigma trusts his perception. If something felt wrong, if respect eroded, if consistency disappeared, he doesn't need a courtroom trial to confirm it. He leaves quietly because explaining invites negotiation, and negotiation invites manipulation. The Sigma understands that people rarely change. After the moment they lose access to you. So instead of debating the past, he focuses on protecting his future. Walking away without closure is not avoidance, it's boundary enforcement. When you seek closure, you hand emotional authority to someone else. You allow them to define your narrative. You allow their words to shape your healing. You allow their interpretation to influence your identity. This is subtle dependence. The Sigma refuses this. He knows that strength begins when your emotional state is no longer outsourced. When he feels pain, he processes it internally. When he feels confusion, he sits with it instead of escaping it through conversation. This is uncomfortable, lonely, silent, but it builds emotional muscle. Over time, the Sigma becomes someone who doesn't need validation to move forward. He doesn't need agreement to let go. He doesn't need permission to detach. And this terrifies people who rely on emotional leverage to stay relevant. Here's the paradox. The moment the Sigma stops seeking closure is often the moment others start chasing it. They notice the absence, the lack of reaction, the silence where there used to be explanation. And silence is unsettling, not because it's aggressive, but because it offers no emotional access. The Sigma doesn't block. He doesn't rant. He doesn't dramatize. He simply removes himself. And in doing so, he reclaims power without confrontation. Internally, something shifts. His energy returns, his focus sharpens, his identity stabilizes. The past loses its grip because it no longer gets fed. This is how emotional freedom is built, quietly, deliberately, without witnesses. At the deepest level, a Sigma doesn't seek closure because he understands that pain is a teacher. Avoiding it delays growth. Outsourcing it delays strength. Closure often interrupts the lesson. It softens edges that were meant to harden. It comforts wounds that were meant to build resilience. The Sigma lets pain complete its work. He doesn't rush healing. He doesn't anesthetize discomfort with conversation. He doesn't dilute the experience. He allows transformation to happen fully. This is why, over time, the Sigma becomes emotionally composed, mentally disciplined, and resistant to manipulation. Not because he never cared, but because he learned how to care without attachment. If you've ever walked away without explaining yourself, if you've ever chosen silence over emotional debates, if you've ever felt stronger after letting go without answers, you're not broken, you're not cold, you're not avoiding healing. You're simply choosing sovereignty over comfort. This channel exists for those who understand that not every door deserves a closing ceremony. Some doors are meant to be left behind without a second glance. If this message resonated, subscribe to Silent Apexx, not for motivation, but for alignment. Like the video if you felt it. Explore the channel for more deep dives into discipline, psychology, and silent strength. And remember, closure isn't something you receive. It's something you decide. Move in silence.